So before I begin, just a special thank you to everybody who has told me to watch this show over the past 6 years. It seemed to me that a million reminders for me to start this was not enough. Here is the special surprise video, my friends, and a special surprise start to a series I'm doing over here on my channel in the build-up to the final season coming out next year. We're looking at Stranger Things, y'all. It's finally time. Everybody has been telling me to check this out. Everybody knows how big of a nostalgic Spielberg fan I am. Everybody knows how big of a fan I am of Jaws, E.T., The Goonies, like all this amazing 80s stuff. And this is a show that pays homage to all those classic Spielberg movies, in addition to some old John Carpenter films. And not even just in the nostalgic 1980s production design, but just look at the fonts on this title. This looks to me like a Stephen King book cover. So a lot of you who've been watching Stranger Things for a long time already know this by now, but just in case you've been living under a rock like I am, here's the premise. When a young boy named Will Byers mysteriously vanishes, a small town attempts to uncover this mystery, and it's anchored by his mother Joyce, played by Winona Ryder, the police chief Hopper, who's played by the excellent David Harbour, along with his 3 young friends, Mike, Dustin, and Lucas. And as they go deeper down the rabbit hole, they see that this mystery involves secret governmental experiments, terrifying supernatural forces, and one strange little girl with telekinetic abilities only known to us as Eleven, played by Millie Bobby Brown. So I've alluded to this already. Everybody who knows me in my personal life knows that I'm a fucking dork. So a lot of the stuff that they pay homage to in this show, it's right up my alley, man. These are kids that are playing Dungeons and Dragons as a hobby here. Matter of fact, that's how this pilot episode starts. Will Byers is on his way home from a disappointing D&D campaign. But y'all are probably well aware that I enjoy me some good supernatural horror. And guys, you know, here's my thing. I cannot believe that it took me this long to start watching this show, because I have, guys, I've fallen in love with this thing. Stranger Things is awesome. You probably didn't need me to tell you that, though, even though I'm late to the party. Most of you already knew this. What the Duffer brothers have done, what they've created here, is just astounding. It is one of Netflix's most popular franchises right now for a reason. And I don't think it's just because of the nostalgia that you feel when watching this show. The soundtrack choices, the homages to the old 80s blockbusters. Because trust me, I feel like if it was just centered around the nostalgia, this would not have gotten past this first season. These characters are the real anchors to Stranger Things, guys. Winona Ryder, I feel like, is the best she's been in years, if not ever, as Joyce. Every time you see her in frame, you just feel this sense of urgency with her. She is like a woman possessed, hoping to find her son. She is the only one holding out hope here. And we as an audience feel so sorry for her, and we feel so much sympathy because we want her to be right. We want her to be the leader of this charge. And nobody in this small town seems to believe her. That includes Hopper, who's played by David Harbour. And man, it takes him a while to come around in this, but oh man, he is so good. I especially love his arc as the season wraps up. The tragedy that goes on throughout his life and the reason why he is the way he is, it is just traumatizing seeing what he goes through. And David Harbour deserves all the credit in the world for bringing this guy to life and bringing so much likability to him. Speaking of likability, all of these kids, all these young performers are bringing it. Finn Wolfhard, most of you may recognize here as Mike, and he is really, really solid. Noah Schnapp, in the little time he has in this first season, is really, really good. Gaten Matarazzo might just be my favorite of these young kids, Dustin. He is just so darn endearing. And he's just a massive geek like I am. Gaten Matarazzo also did theater. Mad props to that dude. The friction that develops between these kids is all really well realized. There's a whole argument and a misunderstanding that Mike and Lucas get into, and poor Dustin just has to be the peacemaker. Dustin and I are very, very similar in that facet. I hate drama. I don't like seeing my friends fight, so I was really feeling for him. And guys, you also have Natalia Dyer as the older sister to Mike and Nancy. Man, she's really good. I don't really think she gets enough credit. This is a character that I feel like could be riddled with cliches in a lot of ways, especially as it goes with her boyfriend, Steve. The jerk. But Nancy really is one of the first people who really starts to sense that something really bizarre is going on in this small town. And she's the first one who really kind of has an inkling of an idea of what could have happened to Will. Not the first one with this theory. That would belong to Will's older brother, Jonathan, who honestly I thought was kind of a creep when we met him. I was very, very skeptical of him. But Charlie Heaton becomes so likable. This is such a reserved and grounded performance. And that's really hard to do for young actors, really, is to ground themselves, because I'm sure these guys were so stoked to be a part of this. But that all comes down to immaculate writing and excellent direction. These kids, they're not censored. They will talk like real kids. That's why I like the kids in E.T. and the Goonies so much. There's really, like, there's a lot of realism in there. And I have a feeling that I'm gonna really, really like these children even more as I continue watching this season. And I have not encountered any spoilers for this somehow, some way. But I have a feeling that the younger performers in this cast, especially as we see them grow up through this series, I'm sure a lot of you already have seen them grow up by this point, but I'm really, really excited to see how this all pans out. And I'm excited to learn more about 11, who's played by Millie Bobby Brown in a star-making turn. If you look at her in this series, you really cannot pinpoint any spot where she breaks character. She is so real in Stranger Things. Like, just looking at her and looking at her abilities, like, it's there. She makes it such a real and feasible thing to have this telekinesis. Millie Bobby Brown deserves all the credit in the world, and you can see why Netflix treats her like a superstar now, because she brought her A-game to Stranger Things. Now, if you just look at this show, this cinematography is downright beautiful. The direction of this show is pitch perfect. The soundtrack choices you have in here are just, like, they burst with nostalgia. It really does feel like you're watching a vintage Steven Spielberg blockbuster in the 2010s come full throttle. It's basically just a full 8-hour day worth of a blockbuster, which is crazy to think about how entertainment has evolved these days. Now, with that being said, I don't think that Stranger Things is a perfect show by any stretch. I do have a couple of small little issues with it, as much as I love it to death. First things first, I love the fact that this show is really leaning into the nostalgia, but there's a very fine line that they have to cross. When is it too much nostalgia? When does it feel like certain story elements are just derivative? I'll tell you exactly when that is. When they're riding on the bikes with 11 away from the government. Where have I seen that before? Not that I didn't love it here. I loved it in E.T., but I couldn't help but think E.T. just did that first. And yeah, let me just address this. I don't want to get too deep into spoilers just in case there's a few of you watching this who haven't seen Stranger Things. But there is one character dynamic which is explored in the finale, especially in regards to their status and their relationship status, basically. I don't know if that's needed. I'm sorry if this is sounding cryptic, but I really, really do not want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen this show, just in case. But, like, me sitting there watching it, I was like, does this relationship really need to add the romance aspects to it? Because I feel like these characters were doing just fine the way they were in season 1. Now, if they wanted to explore this in future seasons, I don't know if they do yet. I've avoided all spoilers, like I've said. And maybe this one character dynamic will grow on me with future installments. But as it is, it just doesn't really feel like a character dynamic that really warrants a romance. You know what I mean? But besides that, I absolutely dig Stranger Things to death. And I cannot wait to continue discussing this show with you guys further. I'm going to give Season 1 an A. Again, I cannot thank everybody enough. Everybody who's told me that I need to go watch this show right the F now. You guys deserve all the praise in the world. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video today. If you're a new viewer, do consider smashing that subscribe button and hit that notification bell right next door, because believe me, you do not want to miss another second of the content here. Do me a favor and hit that thumbs up on your way out, and let me know down in the comments who your favorite character from Stranger Things is. What was your favorite episode from Season 1? Just make sure not to spoil anything in the comments, because I will be coming after you. But joking aside, guys, thank you so much again for tuning in. Look forward to more content very, very soon over here. And with all that being said, Back Talk, commence!